Chit Chat is sponsored by Fun Again Games, where everyone is welcome at our table, and your source for hard-to-find imports, liquidation games, new releases, and much more. Be sure to visit funagain.com to check it out. On episode 116 of Chit Chat, we roll the dice and talk about luck in games. Is there too much? Is it a key ingredient for making a game fun? And are there ways to manage it to make everyone happy? Let's discuss that and more right now. Welcome back to Chit Chat. This is episode 116, and yes, all four of us are here again. It's almost like we recorded all of these at the same time.
No idea.
Oh my gosh.
Don't give away Hollywood secrets.
I shifted a little bit.
We did shift.
I shifted a little bit.
And if you're a keen-eyed viewer, you might see similar outfits to our last episode.
I was going to change. You said no.
You say that you're bringing up some trauma. I actually consider sometimes bringing a second shirt. I've said that before.
I've won you over. See, I did it when I first came here. I used to switch stuff, and now you're doing. You want to do it.
Because David was like, nobody actually notices. Now you're going to notice because we mentioned it.
They are, yeah.
They now do.
You've start a count. How many times has Ryan worn that same gray shirt?
You know what?
Well, don't start that because everyone. I have three things that I
wear this shirt
that I wear on Chit Chat.
I love this gray shirt.
Okay,
this used to be
wardrobe.
We are.
This used to be the North Face channel. Okay, if you remember back in the day with the North Face.
Anyway.
All right. Anyway.
We're glad to all be here.
You're probably feeling very unlucky at the moment. But we are going to be talking about luck in games. All sorts of topics surrounding luck, whether it's good, whether you like luck. Is there too much luck in games? Are there some games that don't have enough luck? That sort of thing. I think we're going to have differing opinions. Yeah. Maybe not similarly differing than, say, on abstract games, but...
Yeah, last week's episode was last 2 weeks ago? Yeah.
2 weeks ago, yeah, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Before we get to any of that, though, we do have a winner from that last episode where we gave away a copy of Koale. Again, still right here on the wall. Abstract game, great little game.
Loved it.
That winner is, I'm not going to speak it, but it's right here below.
Have fun.
This is the winner.
Congratulations, winner.
They'll take that one out of the shrink wrap right away. And play it. And I'm sure you'll play it once or twice.
You will.
Or 3 times, right away.
Don't let it sit on the shelf.
I defy anyone to play a game of that and then go, let's put it away.
Yeah.
And not put it
you
away.
and your partner, you and a friend, you and your kid, whatever. Seriously, play it. You will not
honestly, thinking about it and even just looking at it after the fact, that's a game that I think once you set it up, you're not going to want to ever put it back in the box.
That's
just
true.
Leave it out on your end table.
But guaranteed, whoever loses that first game is going to go, let's go again. Let's go again. Anyway, that's the winner. We will email you and line up how you get the copy of the game,
awesome.
if you're lucky.
Right.
So, speaking of luck, who wants to start talking about how they feel about luck in general?
I would say Ryan has some strong feelings.
I have some strong opinions about luck, but this is something, again, like last time we talked about abstracts, which are generally low luck games, and that is something that I like in a game.
Sure.
But, talking, especially Jeremy and I have had conversations about this, about how luck actually works in games. And I think that a lot of people, myself included, probably have an adverse reaction to what we might call luck when it's actually really not luck at all, right? It's not really luck. But I am one of those people that does, and I'm trying to, just calm my life in general.
Wow.
But trying to get rid of those adverse reactions of feeling like, oh, well, this is just not fair. Right. Well, I mean, a lot of the games, especially the games that have what I would consider a little bit of luck, but even games that have very high luck, like miniatures games and war games, where I don't really like to play those games because of the luck level. What I need to look at is that luck generally affects all players at the table equally.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
And you might have a string of what you think of as bad luck in one game, but a lot of it, I'm going to toss it back over to you because you were the one that opened my eyes.
Yeah.
In that, a lot of people just are bad at reading probability.
Right.
And that feels like being unlucky.
Right.
Right.
And I also, one of the things was when people even are told there's 4 of these, 6 of these, and this is the most restricted resource or the least likely card, still it comes down to, even when people know that information, it comes down to some timing, which is luck, a flip of a card, and you're like, oh, when that 7 went away, now a 2 and a 3 are available. Dang it. Now that I understand that part. But there's also the thing that people don't, they dispel as luck, and it's actually choices. You make choices along the way based on that probability, but everybody's going to have a different set of choices. People will take risks even when they know that the odds are stacked against them, because it may be that point of the game where they may not get another turn. But if you don't get what you want, that doesn't mean that the game is luck and it's super swingy. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people. They don't take accountability for their choices. And we played Alhambra on our stream a couple weeks back. And one of the biggest things is like Emily was able to pay for all the cards perfectly. Well, the game's not built so it's always like that. It's supposed to give everybody a fair chance. But there are a lot of choices that were made by a lot of different people at different points. And there's a sense of timing to the game.
Yes.
And you have to kind of own up to that and understand that the draw of a deck of cards is just the draw of a deck of cards. You know, and that is the luck factor, but you do know what numbers are in there if you really wanted to pay attention to all the cards coming out. So I just thought like player choice and player accountability and knowing the probability, that there's so many choices that go into that, and people just go, that's too lucky.
Well, and the thing is, I think that choice is a huge part of it too, right? Because for me, the games where I don't like luck is where I think I have a ton of choice, I can do all this stuff, and then it comes down to this one thing, and it doesn't go the way I thought it would.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, Jesus, I just had so much control in everything else, and now the one time I needed it to go right, it didn't go right. Whereas if I come into a game and I know there's a lot of luck and there's low choice, I'm just like, cool, let's have a good fun time chucking dice. Like, this will be fun.
You know,
I come into it with different expectations.
My dad would have looked at you and said, Emily, you know, in life, you can do everything that you're supposed to do in life and line up everything. And you know what? Sometimes you might not get it.
Wow.
That's a little deep for board game talk.
That was...
And he said that to me. And I think probably that's why I have like when I do line up something right and you're like, okay, it's got to be these next two cards. And you don't get it. I'm just like, all right. Because he said that to me. Yeah, he's just like, sometimes it just doesn't work out. You know?
I do feel that sense of probability. I feel that a lot. Like, I'm a Magic player. I play Magic the Gathering. And more recently, some other customizable card games. Marvel Snap is kind of the same way. Yeah. There's a lot of situations in those games where you're down to the wire and you're saying, win or lose based on the next card I draw. Yeah. I know what's in my deck. I know what's
heart of the cards.
Right, the heart of the cards. I know what's in my Marvel Snap deck. I know exactly what I need to win. And if I draw it, I'll probably win. And if I don't, I've lost. And like those moments to me, when you do draw it, are very satisfying. And when you, that could be the same applied to board games. When you get that last engine piece, or like a set collection game, and you've got 9 of the 10 sets, and the 10th one flips over right when you are able to purchase it. Those are very good feelings. But I, as much as I hate it, I don't think you can have those highs without having the same lows when you didn't get it.
Yeah, one thing you just said that I would absolutely underscore is highs.
Yeah.
A lot of games that don't have any luck don't have any highs or have far fewer highs.
Yeah, that nice monotone, even level.
Right. Luck brings in a lot of excitement in games, and it depends on
surprise.
A lot of surprise, and sometimes it's going to be great, and sometimes it's going to be not so great in terms of the outcome or the results of that luck. And we've talked about this before, but like in a co-op where you're lucky at the end of like a Death May Die.
Or Oathsworn, which has happened a couple times.
Well, that I definitely want to bring up Oathsworn because it's very similar in that you can have some really exciting moments, and even when you don't get what you need, it's still kind of exciting. It's not great. It's not as good as when you win or get the thing you did need. But in Oathsworn, and this is a topic we talked about a little bit before we recorded, is the idea of like rolling dice and potentially being able to re-roll dice. The degree to which you can mitigate the luck.
Sure.
I also think for a lot of gamers like us, enthusiast gamers, makes it more palatable. Right. You know, and sometimes I think it's giving the illusion of mitigation. Yeah. It makes you feel like, you have some opportunity to mitigate. Well, re-rolling isn't really much.
It's still not a guarantee.
No, it's
still just probable guarantee, as some might say.
It still has that letdown of you could just miss.
Yeah,
well, you could spend 5 reroll tokens and fail every time, and then it really feels unlucky. But the cool thing about Oathsworn in particular, it has, and a lot of games we talked about do this now, you use all these tokens, and if you ultimately fail, in Oathsworn, in a fight anyway, you get all those tokens that you used back.
That's nice.
Plus, you get a bonus token of your choice. So it makes you feel like it's empowered you a little bit for the next time around.
Sure.
And we've talked about some other games too,
Yeah,
like
Marco
too many
Polo,
bones, Marco Polo.
Games that give you some sort of compensation for the luck element, because there are some games that are just wildly luck, and it's going to swing one way or the other. But games, I think, like what you're describing, Emily, where it is a game of very tough decisions, and it sucks to have made a bunch of really smart decisions and then for it all to come down to one lucky moment and lose. I think games like that have just small elements of luck are better served when you do have some kind of compensation for not getting the thing. Like, I really need to roll at least a 5 or higher, and I didn't. I rolled a 3. I don't get to do an action this round. That just feels bad.
You know what's weird is that, like, that's not how we grew up. You know, like, we just rolled the dice, and whatever the result was the result.
Sure.
You know, like, we have
Sorry and trouble.
So
Yeah,
we
I was gonna
have
say.
so
So
we have
much
the
fun.
Vendetta, the Vendetta version of
Thunder Road.
the Thunder Road, and I played the old version like 2 or 3 years ago for the first time, and I was like, wow, this is super clunky. You roll, that's what it is, right? That's what it is, but I was digging it because I was like, that's the way we grew up. It was like hit or miss, right?
Sure.
You got the number, you move that amount of spaces, and then if you got this, you roll doubles, you probably got something cool or whatever. There was no rerolls. And then I look at this version, of course, and there's probably all different ways you can mitigate and stuff. And I think that's what people sometimes, it's hard. I kind of keep going back to that choice thing. It's just like, it's hard for people to swallow defeat.
Yeah.
And if for some reason, board games, if you don't give people enough chances, then that really hurts people. And I'm not sure why. When I think of luck, I always think of like, why does, when something's not in your favor, just hurt more?
Well, it feels like your effort's not being rewarded.
Right.
Like, I put in all this time, I put in all this effort, and then it came to nothing.
Well,
Like,
I think also in that category, the example you just used, it's not just the punishment of failure, but also the satisfaction of control.
Yeah.
Like old board games in general, whatever it was. If you're rolling a dice and you're like, you're not really playing a game. It's
the
like
fail
bad
state- the
game
fail
design
state
to
is-
some
like,
degree.
sorry, where you
But
just
the fail state is so fast.
have the computer do it.
It's so fast that you just move on. Like, then the next person goes. So I do understand, because the impact can be a little bit more heavier in a game that we have nowadays, like with, Cthulhu Death May Die, the stakes keep raising.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, we can't afford to get, all these signs. Like I'm done with the madness stuff. Like, now I need to actually get some hits in here. So I understand. I totally understand it, but it's like, what I've often found is that people need to have like ways to mitigate, turn this die, turn that die, and it's like, hey man, at some point you just gotta chuck it and let it go.
I'm a
sure.
person that likes mitigation, because I like to
love
be able
mitigation.
to build up. There's games, there's games though, like where you can add to the pips of your die. Like, you can spend a
That's what I'm
resource.
saying.
Castles
You
of
spend-
Burgundy.
Castles of Burgundy is great.
Scholars, we just played.
I'm almost like, I'm just going to spend the resources and not have to really even risk the roll, because I don't want that element of risk. But as much as it hurts me to say, as a person that likes games with very low luck, so we were talking earlier about Barrage. Barrage is a game with very little luck.
Yeah.
And that's also a game that you really cannot come back from. There's really no way to like get lucky and like get a bunch of points and catch up.
There's a
No
moment,
swinging.
and it's a moment, and it's crushing. It feels
Right.
good for that person.
It feels good
It
for the
feels
person
good.
that's winning, but,
feels
but
so
games,
good.
I buried you.
games that do have an element of luck,
So much fun.
like we've been playing Scholars, or like we talked about Marco Polo, which has a little bit of mitigation, but you kind of have to hope that like at a certain point the person that's in the lead just gets a little bit of a string of bad luck and they roll really low. That's the moment you roll really high.
Yeah.
You're taking all these great actions, they're not, and that is allowing you to come back. And as much as it feels bad being on the receiving end of the bad luck, for the other players at the table, that's their moment. They've been waiting
I think about it like
for that to happen.
Wonderland's War makes me think of that a lot, right? When you're going up against someone and they're pulling from their bag and you're like, oh my God, please just pull a bad chip or
Right.
pull something that's not going to help you.
I need
so
you to
that-
not be lucky right now.
Yeah, either I win or the person I bet on wins. And you're just
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, please, please, please. And it's not, like, there's probability to it, right? You can watch what people are putting in their bag. You can see what's going on. You know how likely it's going to be to happen. But that tension, you don't get a tension like that unless there is something at risk.
Quacks is the same
Absolutely.
way.
Yeah, Quacks.
I mean, like like all those games, and that's the thing. You almost have to decide before you get to the table. Like, am I going to go for this type of thing? 'Cause,
Yeah.
Like, that's like press your luck is really a choice. You know what you're putting in that
Mm-hmm.
bag. You know what you started with. You know what you bought. you're putting all these chances in there, and you have to make that choice. And it's like when you bust, I'm like, well, it's kind of your fault. You could have stopped.
Well, okay.
You know,
Some of us aren't great with probability.
right.
I'll just say
Okay.
that. So while you're correct, I think some people might play Quacks that way. They might go, okay, well, right now I have a 67% chance that my next chip will let me go. Now it's a 33% chance I'm going to stop right there.
Yeah.
And there are some games I think that
I go for it. Like, when they have that, I just go for it.
it's like
I'm like, whatever.
We were talking about Ark
Go for
Nova.
it.
Ark Nova is a game with a lot of icons, and there's almost like some set collection elements where you might want some specific icons to fulfill specific conservation
and stuff,
projects,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if you've never played the game before and you don't know that one symbol's rarer than the other, or you don't know how many cards are in the deck or the distribution, trying to figure out that probability can be very difficult. Which you know, if you're in the receiving end again of that, and you're like, I drew 20 cards,
I have
and not a
seen
single
the
one was an
card
elephant,
that's
and then you find out that there's only 2 elephants
Right.
in the whole deck.
like-
Well, it's like, okay, well, that was a choice, a dumb choice.
right. Why
I
am
shouldn't
I-
have been chasing that.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought the petting zoos were cool.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like you're
Whereas,
like, you know, like,
I'm not going to
yeah.
say the name of the game because I know, but there are like some games where they print the probability on the cards,
Oh,
there
sure,
you go.
sure, sure.
like Earth, I guess,
Yeah.
because I know that's
Yeah.
one of your
I
favorite
think he
games.
just,
Or even
I think he just
Wingspan.
said the name of the game.
or,
did.
yeah, even Wingspan.
Well, I
yeah.
thought
Oh, that
maybe Emily would
Wingspan
jump
does
in.
do that.
Yeah,
they
it
have the
says like
probability of
16% of the cards will have this. So
Right,
you know
yeah.
how likely you are to get that objective.
And that is really, that's nice. In fact, every time I've
I
taught
like
that
it.
to even some people who aren't like experienced gamers, they recognize that as
Yes.
like, oh, that's cool. So, oh, this would be a bad one, or I might not score
Yes.
this one.
Right, and I think
nice.
that's, you could say that in Earth, like if somebody's getting frustrated, like I drew 10 cards and not a single one, and you're like, well, it says that there's only 8% of the whole deck.
So it's unlikely you were
So
going to get one anyway.
Right, so you probably, and while that can
Dummy.
feel unlucky, while that can feel unlucky, it really was just, again, it was a bad decision you made.
Yeah.
Well, and I think even on a smaller scale, I think about like Fantasy Realms, right? Like people have played
Oh, yeah.
Fantasy
Yeah.
Realms a lot. They're like, yeah, you know what's in the deck, you know what's possible,
you
and
know
so
what's
you're
in
like,
there.
oh, this is likely, this is not likely. These combos are harder to get, but it's just hard because even though it shows what cards are available at the back, it's like no one's really looking at that.
Yeah, if you're a deterministic gamer, don't be playing Fantasy Realms.
Yeah, it's
like
kinda hard.
it's and then the nice thing about that is that it's so quick that it's again.
Exactly.
I think that goes into a lot of how you feel about luck. 2 things, in fact. One, if you see someone who's getting lucky in the positive way during
Over
a
and
game,
over and over.
and you're getting endlessly negative luck, that starts to rub on you quite a
Feel.
bit. The other thing, though, is the length of play. So
Yes,
if you're investing,
the cost of it.
man, if you're doing a lot of deterministic stuff, and then there's all of a sudden some lucky element that ruins all of that effort that you put in, that's crazy bad.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
really need to pace it out so that people understand and are reminded consistently during the play, there is luck in this game.
Yeah.
Not
Also-
like there's no luck. There's no like, oh,
But
there's
if your
luck.
strategy doesn't work out, it doesn't work out either. So
Sure.
like it could have worked out, and now you've kind of leaned into it way too much, and you lose. Which is one of the things that happens in Ark Nova with some people because they feel like, oh, this continent will keep coming up, and I'll keep getting animals from this, and all of a sudden the card cycle
goes
you're
dry.
Like,
Yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh, and I need to get this, and then maybe at the end of the game, when it's that person's turn, another person's turn before you, they go, oh, that Africa card, I'm gonna get it. Boom, and then I get to put on my little 2, and I get a little extra conservation. It's like, and then that person will be like, that is crazy. This is way too swingy. This is, like, that's the key. It's just, I feel like a lot of this is player choice, and then when you have that kind of information, you just learn over time, like, I can't take those chances.
Yes.
I can't
Yeah.
take those chances.
It's your appetite for risk,
really?
really.
Yeah.
It's your appetite for risk.
What I really appreciate in games are like modern games are doing things to like try and kind of maybe change the way luck is perceived in a game. And I'm thinking like specifically of Bruges, which was a Stefan Feld game, where you had a deck of cards and there was a whole bunch of different colors mixed in there, and you were drawing from those decks trying to get a specific color to complete your
Yeah.
wall or whatever, or canal or whatever it was. And like one player could just draw and go, oh, that was the color I needed. Oh, that was the color I needed. Oh, and you're just like, come on, I don't even have a chance. And in the reimplementation in the City Collection version, they split them out into different decks, so
You know what you're
you
getting.
know what you're getting.
Oh, okay.
And so they
Yeah.
they just
Oh.
took. There's still that element of randomness because you don't know exactly what it's going
Right,
to be,
still.
but
Sure.
But
you
it's-
know you're going to get the color you
You
need.
get the
Which is
color
the
you
big
need.
part. It is a really big difference, and I think a lot of people I think a lot of people who had negative feelings about Bruges,
Which
that was
one
the
of them.
single biggest criticism of the game is like, well, you just don't know what color you're going to get. And in a Euro, it felt very luck of the draw, literally. But now it's completely not the case.
Like, I like games that I don't hate necessarily luck in games. Like, I don't hate it. It leads to some cool elements. I like games that let you kind of choose your own strategy. And sometimes there's games where if you don't want to risk the luck, you can just try to do a different strategy that's a little bit more reliable. Well, other people might go the high risk, high reward route, and it might pay off for them or not.
I do, but not because I want it to pay off. I just want to have fun.
You just want to see what happens.
Sure.
It's more fun. Whenever there's like a player power, it's like, oh, what's his player power? Well, at the beginning of every turn, you roll a die and you might get stuff.
Yeah.
But the stuff you get if you roll a 6 is insane.
Yeah, I just
I'll
wanted
go,
my combo
sign
off.
me up.
I just wanted my combo off
Sign
one
me up.
time. That's what I tell you. Let me get my combo off one time.
Right.
That's it.
So yeah, it really kind of comes down to what you want out of the game
Right.
too. If you're focused on the end game and potentially winning or the outcome anyway.
If you play Oathsworn, there's no better feeling than having this crazy option where it's like, I get to roll 3 dice, flip a card. We gonna flip another card? Or we gonna roll more? Like it's crazy. Like that feeling, that option alone, that feeling. Like I could chuck dice, or I could do part dice, part cards. Like that's never seen before.
I'm glad you brought that
and
up.
then if we lose everything, we get all our stuff back, and we get boons for that as well. Like that's a very rewarding feeling, and I think that's why that game, with that luck in there, and it's a harder game. There's a reason why you're getting all this stuff back, but it's just like that is the ultimate in like luck.
But it also
But you
gives,
get so much excitement along the way.
But what you just hit was it gives different types of players different ways to
Yeah.
approach it because you can roll dice, which is obviously probability, but it is the luck of the roll. On the cards that you draw as an alternative, you can know what's in the discard pile, and you know how many things are in the deck. So if you've drawn all the blanks, you know that the rest of the
of
deck
course,
is good to go.
Yeah.
So
I love it. I
you can
love
kind
that.
of game that a little bit, and you do
Stack
find
the
yourself.
odds, yeah.
We found ourselves like, I'm gonna roll 2 dice, but I'm gonna draw 3
the
cards.
Yep.
And it might be a little bit of an illusion of choice at times,
Right.
but it's enough to really make it
Dude.
interesting.
I don't mind the illusion of choice as long as there's still actual choices in
You
the game.
you felt like, but that's the thing. You do feel like you're making.
Yeah.
Right.
Choices.
You're like, I'm calculating this choice. It seems like it's going to be in our favor.
Yeah.
Like you'll even say like, all right, let's bump this up to a yellow so that I know those cards are there. And then I'll look at my buddy from across the table and I'll be like, but I'm just going to chuck these dice. You're like, no, don't do that. Like, but that's the thing. It's like,
There's something so fun about gathering together a bunch of dice and rolling them. But then you have that crushing blow of like
defeat.
looking and going, all I needed was like 5s and 6s to hits, and I rolled all 1s and 2s.
Or miss it by one.
But you
You're
wouldn't
like,
have
oh.
those death may die moments where,
Right.
Yeah.
or even like we played Zombicide a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, and that is definitely one of those games of just like you get those really exciting turns, but then also you roll, you're like, I cannot believe that I just rolled nothing. Like it's
Yeah.
it's almost lucky in your unluckiness
It's
to
funny
not
that
get
you-
a single hit.
And like somehow you're telling yourself like, this, if I roll these 3s, it'll be a 4 next time. You're like,
Yeah.
you start saying things that don't even make mathematical sense. You're like, well, then I
rolled
got
6
2
ones
3s.
in a row.
We
This
can
one
do the
can't
4s.
be.
Like, no, it's still the same, bro. Like,
Yeah, surely we won't
numbers
fail
are
this
still the
time.
same.
Right.
All right. So we should probably we
Yes,
can talk about this.
we're going to talk about
But-
some of the games we've been playing.
Yeah.
That's our topic on luck. If you have thoughts on luck, please let us know in the comments below.
So yeah, speaking of kind of like luck in board games and the re-implementations, we played another great Feld game, which was Cuzco, which was a re-implementation of Bora Bora, which
Yeah.
I think is considered, one of his heaviest games, and maybe one of like the most punishing and complex games that he's made. They rethemed it with Cuzco and the Incan Empire, which is a really cool theme based on history. And again, like I mentioned earlier, they took some of the luck elements and mitigated them a little bit.
Yeah.
In that Cuzco has a deck of God cards that you're going to be using throughout the game and collecting them to help you do things. And you really do need the help. So like these God cards are an integral part of the game. But you used to shuffle all the different gods together in one stack. And there was like maybe 5 different sets of God cards. And then you'd reveal some into a row, which, meant you could get all of the same god in the row. And then if you had a mission that wanted the orange god, but all that was out there was the blue god, you were just kind of out of luck.
Yeah.
And that maybe felt a little more punishing in a game that's already very punishing. So for the reimplementation in Cuzco, they actually separated them out into individual piles of the god. And while there's still some randomness because only one of the, there's like 5 different powers for each god, and only one is face up at a time, you can still choose from any one of the powers. So you always can get access to the god you want, which is good because, I mean, like I've said before in this, the game is very punishing. And it's a dice placement game. And if you roll low, it can be really punishing for you. Although they did introduce like some modules that let you mitigate your dice rolls a little bit.
Yeah, there is a module, I think, that lets
like
you
that.
change your dice a little bit. But yeah, when you're placing your die, I think you would enjoy this. The next die that has to be placed to take that action has to be not equal to or lower. It has to be lower. So if I'm the first person to go to a space and put a 1,
that's it.
Guess what? No one else is taking that action.
Yeah, you got to like make use of those god cards and things like that.
It is rough.
Yeah,
I like that.
There's a lot of dice being placed with people going, why did you do it? It feels super cutthroat.
Yeah, but at the same time, some of the actions are better with the higher die you place, or you get more selection sometimes with the higher the die you place. So you're really torn.
That's true.
A really high die is really good. You're like, I rolled that 6. I'm gonna get this action as a 6, and David put a 4 there.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Bora Bora, so I was also a different gamer back then. So it'd be very interested to see like what this game is like.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get an idea. Maybe it was just like I was younger. I was developing. I was an emerging gamer.
We could get it played. We
game.
might be able to get it played while you're here because I think you'd like it, and I'd be interested to see what you thought. I don't have a game to talk about. Actually, I do have a game.
Okay, you do have a game.
But I do have this, and I wanted to talk about it because it just showed up along with another one. A company called, what was it? Escape Welt? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
They had sent us an email saying they had these escape boxes. I've always wanted one of those really cool, like, puzzle boxes.
Like the glass onion puzzle box?
Cabinet of Curiosity.
Yeah, the things that look like they cost like $8,000, and some of them do. This one didn't cost that much. I don't know how much they cost because they did send it to us. But it is an intricate built wooden puzzle box.
You're gonna have to put up some good pictures of it because it is very
don't break
intricate.
it. I will put up pictures.
Cool.
I don't know if you just play around with this to see what happens. I think you do that a little bit, but there's also all sorts of weird icons and imagery, numbers,
diagrams,
letters. Yeah, that I'm assuming must mean something, and
it's making noise.
It's making noise, and I'll just show you. Like you can rotate this almost, and now look at that.
Oh, it says something.
There's even information on this piece that just pulled out.
That's neat.
We're gonna solve it right here on camera.
I feel it's very cool.
Right.
I don't think it's very cool because I don't hear jelly beans or anything coming out of it. Like, maybe I don't know if there's like some.
I don't think there's food in here.
There's no.
I have no.
Jeremy,
incentive.
so you're not a solve the puzzle for the puzzle's sake. You're like, I got to get to whatever's in the center.
I will say,
$100 bill in the center.
I like solving puzzles. I do. If I had to guess, I'll get a little ways on this, and then I'll probably get frustrated. And
I want to take
crack it open.
That's something I would have on my desk, and I would just have it there to do stuff.
Pick it up every once in a while, so you can get a little further.
The
thing is, I don't know if I'm getting further or if I'm, going backwards necessarily.
Sure.
No,
but anyway, it's really cool. If we get through it, we'll report back on a future episode of Chit Chat. We got this one and another one called Space Box. They do all sorts of puzzly things, though.
That's cool. I hadn't actually seen that one outside of the box. That's really cool.
I mean, I've seen these on social media and stuff. I've just never really seen them in person, but it's pretty cool.
Well, the game I've been playing is also kind of like a puzzle, but also dice, so there's luck in it, and that is Bandada.
Oh, is that how you pronounce that?
I think so.
Bandada?
Yes.
What did you think it was?
I don't know. I had no
Bandada?
idea. Like Bandada, it looks like bandana.
Bandana.
For a long time, I thought it was called bandana when I was just looking at the box.
No. Wow, okay. It's about a group of birds, but really it's a dice manipulation game, right? It's very simple. You're drafting over 4 rounds, a card each round, and it's going to score depending on which dice are out in the 3 different rows. But I love it. We've been playing it on BGA, and it's very fast to play, which is really nice. You can take your turn, and we're playing it async. And when you come back to it hours later, it's not one of those things where you're like, what was I doing? And was I trying to get this? You're like, oh, those are my cards. That's how I score. This is what's up. This is what I'll do. There you go.
It scratches a lot of the same itches for me as Biblios. I don't know if you played Biblios in that, like, everyone is trying to compete. Everyone is playing cards that are going to change the value of the die.
Yep.
And everyone wants the die to be what they want it to be. But what's interesting about this game is like every bird you draft lets you change some of the dice facings, but then also has a scoring condition.
Yes.
And rarely ever is the bird you draft going to give you manipulation that fits its own scoring condition. So it's not that simple.
Yes.
You need to draft a bird, and then the next bird you draft maybe sets the die to what that bird was, but then Emily drafts a bird, and she changes the die back, and like...
And so by the end you have 4 different scoring conditions, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, how can I really max this out so I'm getting the most out of each of these? Even though this one might be less, if this one can be maxed, that'll be more overall. And then there's a variant you play with it with secret objectives too, where like at the end you have a secret objective that you were trying to get, so the other person doesn't know how much you might score off of that. It's been really interesting.
Is this how old is this game?
It's brand new.
Oh, it's brand new.
Yeah, it's brand new, and they just released the BGA implementation not too long ago.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, I
check
think
it
you'd
out.
really like
it's
it,
a lot of fun.
honestly.
It's a 2-player only game, so that's
Yeah.
specific about it.
Oh, alright.
But yeah, very fast.
What about you, Jeremy?
Well, in gaming terms, this would be a ye old game compared
Oh,
to
wow.
yeah. It came out in 2000, probably like 18. I think it's called Shipshape or
Shipshape?
Shipshape.
Oh yeah,
Shipshape.
yeah.
You're looking down?
Shipshape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
You just
so
played
we
that?
just no, I've had it.
Oh.
I brought it back out because like I said, I was just talking about my work crew getting excited, and I was like, oh yeah, we just played that yesterday. So I brought it to work, and I was like,
What is this game?
I want to show. Okay, so
Oh.
it's like
it's so
cool.
fun.
It's designed by Rob Davio, and what you're doing is like it's got these squares, and the squares have like different cutouts in them. You have a 3x3 graph, and you have like rats at the bottom that are negative points.
Okay.
And what you're doing is you got these cards that are 1 through 10, and you are basically bidding for each one of these tiles that are in stacks. And you take the tile, you kind of look down at the stack, and you can see like kind of how the shapes are. And it equals 8. So it's like there's contraband, there's gold, there's cannons and stuff like that, and they score differently.
Okay.
And you're trying to make sure that you're not only doing that, but possibly covering up everything so you get 8 points as well.
I see.
So you're taking these and you're bidding and you're kind of like looking down, do I want this? Do I want that? How would that fit? And then, and then you put it down to your thing and you try to do that over and around, and you score 3 different times in the game. I would tell you, like that game, this one of the games I just highly recommend. It's so fun.
It is a fun, and
It's
it's
a-
very unique.
And it's very unique.
And it's hard to describe because after you were describing it and she was wanting to know, I can't imagine you have a sense for still.
wanna see
No,
pictures
you're
of
right.
it.
You
you
need to see a picture.
actually have to see it because that part what I'm explaining.
That
and-
three-dimensional element.
yeah, the
is
three-dimensional.
very
You are everybody is like we're just like
you're looking down into the hold of a ship,
Ship.
from the top of the ship,
I see.
trying to figure
Yeah,
out
like through the
what
grate.
is.
I
shit.
see.
So like it's like everything's stacked on top of each other. You can't really see what's in the hold.
Right.
It almost like they could re-implement that for like Storage Wars when you're
Yeah.
trying to like look into a storage unit. But that is kind of what it feels like, trying
Yeah,
to see what you can see within
What a
there.
game!
It's
What
a really
game.
unique
nice little
mechanic,
30-minute
for
game.
sure.
It's one of my favorite 30-minute games. I'm so
Yeah.
glad I was doing kind of a purge of my games last year, and I didn't even consider that to go away.
No.
Like that's how I knew. I was like, no, this game ain't going anywhere. I love this game.
I think I actually threw it overboard.
Yeah, you
Did you
know.
really?
I
Oh,
did. I
no.
purged. I don't call many, but I think the last
Oh,
time I
David.
donated games to a
David.
local
Oh,
game
well,
store,
donation
that was
is
one of
good.
them.
That's a good
Donation
thing.
is good because I know people will enjoy it.
It wasn't hitting my table, so
Okay.
I know a lot of people would get a lot of fun out of it. It's a
Yeah.
great demo game
Yeah.
too at a game
It,
store.
it sure is. Oh man, that's so a demo game at a store. Definitely.
So anyway, that was the games we've been playing. That is our thoughts on luck and lack of luck or too much luck. Let us know what you think about luck in the comments below. And of course, the games you've been playing. And until next time, make sure everyone you play with has fun at the table.
And good luck, right?
And good luck.
And good luck with that.
Oh, look at you.
Good luck with
Are
that.
you kidding me? All right.
We'll see you next time.